Hello children, welcome to aimsindia's online classes. This is biology session, coordination, the linking system, part 4. So we have been discussing the coordination, human nervous system. So scientists have able to trace out the nerves that originate from the brain called the cranial nerves, and those that originate from the spinal cord are called the spinal nerves. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves, and these cranial nerves arise from the brain, and there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves which are arising from the spinal cord. Okay, so we have studied the central nervous system. The central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord. We studied the structure of brain and the main parts of brain, that is cerebrum, diencephalon, midbrain, cerebellum, pons varolii, medulla oblongata. These are the main parts of the brain. There are three main divisions: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. And we studied the functions also. And after that, we studied about the structure of spinal cord. So the spinal cord also very important. It extends from the medulla to lumbar region through a neural canal of the vertebral column. It is cylindrical in shape. Unlike brain, how is the structure? It possesses the white matter surrounds the grey matter. Okay, the grey matter containing the cell bodies of motor, means afferent, and connecting the neurons in the inner white matter. Okay, the white matter is outer and inner grey matter for spinal cord, whereas for brain there is outer grey matter and inner white matter. Okay, so in today's class we are going to discuss about the peripheral nervous system, means the nerves which originate from the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, are you ready children? Let us proceed. The peripheral nervous system. Before going to peripheral nervous system, spinal cord, which route according to you gets signals from afferent nerves? There are three types of nerves are there: afferent nerves, efferent nerves, and mixed or associated nerves, isn't it? So what are afferent nerves? AFF. Afferent nerves means the incoming nerves. Incoming nerves receives or gets the signals from which route of the spinal cord receives the signals from afferent nerves. Okay, that is the dorsal horn. Okay, the dorsal, it is the dorsal horn which receives the nerves from efferent, okay, that is afferent nerves. Okay, so the signals in the form of the electrical signals from the receptors. Receptors carry the stimuli in the form of electrical impulse by means of afferent nerves into the spinal cord. Okay, the peripheral nervous system, PNS, is a vast system of the dorsal and ventral root nerve canal. Okay, the peripheral nervous system is a vast system of the dorsal and ventral root nerve cell heads, and the network of spinal and cranial nerves that are linked to the brain and the spinal cord on one end and muscles on the other hand. Okay, So what do you think the end of these nerves act at the muscular end? Okay, here the peripheral nervous system, it includes the nerves which carry the impulses to and from the central nervous system. There are two sets of nerves, that is cranial and spinal nerves. The cranial nerves originate from the cranium. A human body has 12 pairs of cranial nerves which can be sensory. There are olfactory and optic, these are sensory. Motor means oculomotor and trochlear, these two are motor. And mixed, trigeminal and facial, these two nerves are mixed. Whereas spinal nerves originate from the spinal cord by means of two roots, a dorsal and ventral root. Each dorsal root has a ovoid dorsal ganglion. All the spinal nerves are mixed nerves, means having both sensory and motor fibers. At the junction of two roots, the sensory and motor fibers separate out. The sensory fiber continue into the dorsal root and the motor fiber continue into the ventral root. Both roots enter the grey matter of the spinal cord and end in the respective dorsal and ventral horns of the grey matter. Okay, the human body has how many pairs of spinal nerves? 31 pairs of spinal nerves. These are classified into 5 groups. The spinal cord, what are they? Cervical 8 pairs, thoracic 12 pairs, lumbar 5 pairs, sacral 5 pairs, and coccygeal 1 pair. Total 31 pairs. Okay. So what do you think the end of these nerves act at the muscular end? Because the effector organs, not only a muscle, it may be any organ. Okay. So after analyzing the stimuli, the nerve endings or nerve terminals or the axon ends will attach to the effector, that it may be a muscle or any organ. The peripheral nervous system can either involuntarily control several functions of the regions like our internal organs, blood vessels, smooth and cardiac muscles. Okay. So here a figure. So this shows the peripheral nervous system. Shows your nerves are attached to the spinal cord have two types of connections or roots. Okay, what are they? One to the back, here one to the back or dorsal side, okay, and other to the front or ventral side. Okay, one is back side, that is dorsal side, and one is front side, that is ventral side of the spinal cord. So the experimental work of two men, that is Charles Bell in Scotland and Frank, we have studied already, Francois Magnidi in France in the early 19th century, showed that these roots have different functions. Okay. So if the dorsal roots of an experimental animal were cut, what happened? The animal made no obvious reactions. But if the ventral root were even lightly touched also, the muscles of which the nerve was connected switched violently. Okay. So here dorsal and ventral roots. So most of the spinal nerves are mixed nerves. Now let us proceed to autonomous nervous system. What is autonomous nervous system? It has voluntary control of muscles of some areas of skin and skeletal muscles. We can say the nerves controlling involuntary actions. The nerves controlling involuntary actions of smooth muscles and certain glands while in sleeping or awake constitute the autonomic nervous system. Okay, I repeat. The nerves controlling involuntary actions of smooth muscles and certain glands while in sleeping or awake, they together constitute the autonomic nervous system. This system consists of pairs of chains of nerves and ganglion on either side of the backbone or spinal cord. Means this autonomous nervous system spread on either side of the backbone. Okay, generally a sensation is a general state of awareness of a stimulus, whereas perception involves the interpretation of sensory information. What is perception? It involves the interpretation of sensory information. Okay. So actually the nerve impulse travels a maximum speed of about 100 meters per second only. 100 meters per second only. That much fast. The most affected part when a person consumes alcohol is cerebellum. Okay. So actually these waves they are studied by EEG, electroencephalograph, the device. Okay, here the waves are there named as B waves. The absence of B waves, a type of brain wave or any electrical activity from the brain of a patient, indicates brainstem death. Okay, this is nothing but the absence of heartbeat, breathing movements and electrical brain activity is a clinical definition of death. The actual definition of death is the absence of heartbeat, breathing movements and electrical brain activity. Okay, what is a ganglion actually? The ganglion is the aggregation of nerve cell bodies, and the proximal portion of their process is called a ganglion, nerve ganglions. Okay, mostly the ganglia are located close to our embedded in the organ they control. So that's why this autonomous nervous system is divided into two parts, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So autonomous nervous system has a voluntary control of muscles of some areas of skin and the skeletal muscles. We can take up an example to see how certain involuntary function controlled by autonomous nervous system which takes place in our body. So a very evident observation is the reduction and expansion of a pupil of our eye. You know the pupil is there a slit like opening through which the light enters the eye. Okay, when we enter a dark room, we cannot see anything immediately. Slowly we are able to see the things around us in the room. It takes some time to adjust the light in the closed room. This you might have experienced in a theater, isn't it? This is because of increase in diameter of pupil, which allows more light in. When we come out of the dark room into broad daylight, the diameter of the pupil decreases, allowing less light to enter into the eyes. So both these functions occur under the influence of autonomous nervous system. Okay, autonomous nervous system is a wonderful nervous system. So several functions in our body are controlled by nerves, while many of them and others are controlled by other ways as well. So you might have heard about the people having diabetes and know that they have to take tablets or insulin injections when the levels of sugar in their blood rises. Okay, what is diabetes? Diabetes is nothing but the abnormal levels of sugar in the blood due to the hyposecretion of insulin hormone by pancreas. Okay, which organ secretes insulin? Pancreas. So let us find out what insulin is and how we came to know about it. So this would also gives us an idea of controls other than the nerves in our body. Okay, so we are in opinion that the brain controls everything. Nervous control, neuronal control, but these chemical substances secreted by these endocrine glands also control certain vital functions in our body. Okay, so this autonomous nervous system divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system here, the sympathetic nerves originate from thoracolumbar segment. Thoracolumbar segment, these are the sympathetic ganglions. Okay, segment of the spinal cord. Their function include dilation of iris, here eyes, dilation of iris, decreasing the secretion of salivary glands, reduced saliva flow. Okay, and acceleration of heartbeat, increase sino-auricular node. Okay, increased heartbeat, increased respiration, vasoconstriction, and even increased respiration, relaxed stomach or reduced peristalsis and secretions, relaxed stomach, intestine, and urinary bladder. Okay, inhibition of bladder contraction, urinary bladder, relaxed urinary bladder, and decreased secretion of gonads also. Okay, even liver, action of glycogen to release, to produce glucose, convert the glycogen into glucose. These are all the some of the important functions of the sympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system, if you see here, the parasympathetic nerves originate from cranial and sacral segments of the spinal cord. See here, this is the cranial and sacral segments of a spinal cord. Okay, their function include constriction of iris. Okay, meiosis it is called. Mydriasis means here the dilation of iris takes place. Here constriction of iris, and increase of saliva secretion, stimulated saliva flow, increase of saliva secretion, and deceleration of heartbeat means decreased heart rate, heartbeat, decreased respiration, bronchoconstriction means the respiration rate is decreased, excitation of stomach means stimulates the peristalsis and the secretion of the stomach, and constriction of urinary bladder, constriction of urinary bladder, and increase the secretion of gonads means testis and ovary. Okay, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system normally equal and opposite. They oppose one another. They are antagonistic. If one system contracts a muscle, the other usually relaxes it. The balance between these two systems accurately regulates the involuntary activities of an organism. Okay, children. See, equal and opposite, they are. Sympathetic will enhance the rate of reaction. Parasympathetic will regulate, decrease some rate of reactions. They are equal and opposite. Okay, the coordination without nerves we are discussing. The story of insulin. Let us continue. In 1868, Paul Langerhans, the professor of pathology at the University of Freiburg in Germany, working on the structure of pancreas, he noted certain patches of cells quite different in appearance from the normal tissue cells of the organ, and richly supplied with blood vessels. Okay, so in 1868, who is that? Paul Langerhans. He is a professor of pathology of the University of Freiburg in Germany. Okay, he studied on the structure of pancreas. So he observed that he finds certain cells which are different from the rest of the cells. Okay, they are richly supplied with the blood vessels. So they are known as islets of Langerhans. He named them as islets of Langerhans. Islet stands for islands. Okay, but their function remained unknown. He doesn't know about the function. So he is the Paul Langerhans. Okay, he studied the structure of pancreas. So later those islets of Langerhans divide into alpha cells and beta cells, and their function was known later. So that is, it produces the two important hormones. They are insulin and glucagon. So later this pancreas is considered as a mixed gland. Okay, it works both as a ductless gland and a ducted gland. The pancreatic duct, the pancreatic juice which is produced by this the tissue of the pancreas, it is the exocrine part, digestive part, whereas insulin and glucagon are the hormones produced by the endocrine part of the pancreas, that is called islets of Langerhans. Okay, so the story of insulin, let us continue. The many other interested in the function of pancreas, many other scientists, and found that its removal from the body of an experimental animal would lead to the development of diseases similar to a well-known human ailment, that is sugar or diabetes. Okay, in the animals, what they have done? They removed the pancreas from that animal, and they observed that the sugar level in the blood has been increased. Okay, so this is a condition in which the amount of free sugar in the blood and in the urine is abnormally very high. What is that condition? Diabetes. So its a cause in the human was unknown, but evidence pointed to the pancreas as a possible role. Okay, it is the pancreas and its secretion which control the level of sugar in the blood. Okay, so this is the internal structure of the pancreas. So it's the duodenum, where the pancreatic duct opens into, which produce the pancreatic juice, which is the exocrine part, whereas it consists of lobules. It is a pale yellow color. Okay, it is present below the stomach. So the next stage was reached when it was found that tying up the pancreatic duct that emerged from the duodenum. Okay, what they have done? They tied the pancreatic duct which is entering the duodenum. This is the pancreatic duct. This is the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine. Okay, so when they tied the pancreatic duct that emerged from the duodenum, a part of the small intestine, would cause the pancreas to degenerate, but the islets of Langerhans would remain normal. Okay, the pancreas, when they tied the pancreatic duct which is entering into the duodenum, the pancreas start degenerating, but the special cells which are present in the pancreas, islets of Langerhans, they remain normal. So moreover, an animal so treated would not develop diabetes. Okay, when the pancreas is totally removed, the animal developed the diabetes, but only the pancreatic duct is tied, and the the animal would not develop the diabetes. This was really a strong evidence that the level of blood sugar is linked with the islet cells of pancreas. By 1912, the workers were convinced that the islets produced a secretion which directly liberated into the blood but not into the digestive system. Pancreatic juice liberated into the duodenum through pancreatic duct, but the secretions of these special cells, islet cells, their secretion directly liberated into the blood. So in Latin, insula means an island. The name insulin was coined for the secretion even though it had not been isolated. Okay? So 10 years later in Toronto, Banting, Best and MacLeod finally succeeded in extracting the insulin from degenerate animal pancreases whose ducts to the intestine had been tied. Okay, 10 years later in Toronto, Banting, Best and MacLeod, they finally succeeded in extracting the insulin from degenerate animal pancreases whose ducts to the intestine had been tied. When given by intravenous injection to a dog with no pancreas, this substance kept it alive and healthy with a low level of blood sugar. So what they have done? They have removed the pancreas from the dog and they injected that secretion of the pancreas, insulin, intravenously in the form of an injection. So that substance kept the dog alive and healthy with a low level of blood sugar. So insulin is now produced in large quantities for the treatment of human sufferers from sugar diabetes to whom it is administered by injection into the skin. So insulin thus is a chemical that acts as it reaches blood from the cells that produce it. Okay. So this by this we can come to a conclusion that there is a coordination without nerves also in the body. Okay. Okay, children. Read a textbook, clarify the doubts. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe our channel and press the bell icon for receiving latest updates.